After Mu Chen defeated Xun'er and Chen, the final spot for the 9 Nether Sparrow was completely secured by him. In the following days, he did not leave, instead remaining in the 9 Nether realm to await the opening of the Divine Beast Plains. During his time in the 9 Nether realm, Mu Chen, guided by 9 Nether, found a residence and secluded himself for focused cultivation to adjust his state. But he understood that, although he had already shown his strength in the battles against Xun'er and Chen, many members of the 9 Nether Sparrow clan might still be unable to fully accept an outsider like him. Therefore, Mu Chen decided not to force interactions, but to concentrate on his training, hoping to help the 9 Nether clan acquire the ancient undying bird's divine blood in the Divine Beast Plains. After all, he came to the 9 Nether Sparrow clan not for their so-called friendship, but solely to aid 9 Nether. During his stay, Mu Chen did not meet many members of the 9 Nether Sparrow clan, except for 9 Nether, who regularly visited to discuss updates regarding the Divine Beast Plains. Time passed swiftly in this calm atmosphere, and before he knew it, 10 days had passed, and on the 10th day, as the first rays of sunlight tore through the clouds and illuminated the majestic 9 Nether mountain, Mu Chen, sitting in his room, suddenly opened his eyes. His black pupils gleamed with a sharp intensity that he looked out the window, noticing that the entire 9 Nether mountain seemed to be in an uproar, with the deafening sound of wind swirling through the air. Clearly, the opening of the Divine Beast Plains was a grand event for the 9 Nether Sparrow clan. Mu Chen's gaze shifted. He moved swiftly, appearing directly in the courtyard outside his residence. Not far away, a slender figure was swiftly approaching before landing in the yard that it was, of course, 9 Nether. "Let's go, the Divine Beast Plains is about to open," 9 Nether said, landing gracefully. A bright smile appeared on her delicate face, making her look stunning. After resolving the issues caused by the bloodline connection, 9 Nether seemed much more relaxed, no longer burdened by constant worries. Mu Chen smiled and nodded, saying nothing further as he shot into the air. Under 9 Nether's guidance, they sped toward the peak of the towering 9 Nether mountain. Along the way, countless figures streaked by, members of the 9 Nether Sparrow clan all rushing toward the mountaintop. Although the number of spots to enter the Divine Beast Plains was very limited, that did not deter the clan members from longing to go. In just a few minutes, Mu Chen and 9 Nether reached the summit, where they gently descended. The mountaintop was already crowded with people. In the center of the square, Patriarch Tian Huang stood with several elders, hands clasped behind his back. Beside him was Mandala. Unlike Mu Chen, the 9 Nether Sparrow clan treated Mandala with great respect. After all, Mandala was a genuine Upper Earth Supreme, a powerful being who could easily gain a seat among the top powers in the Great Thousand Worlds, not just the 9 Nether Sparrow clan. In front of Patriarch Tian Huang, Mo Feng and Mo Ling had already arrived. Mu Chen and 9 Nether landed beside Mo Feng, who remained indifferent, staring straight ahead with an aloof, uninterested expression. Mo Ling, however, gave Mu Chen a cheerful smile, her youthful energy radiating. Patriarch Tian Huang nodded at the four of them, and then looked up at the sky, speaking calmly. "The Divine Beast Plains will open soon. When it does, I will tear through the space, and you four will enter." Mu Chen and the others nodded in unison. Patriarch Tian Huang turned his gaze to Mu Chen, saying, "The Divine Beast Plains lies within an illusory space, where chaotic spatial currents rage that if you're caught in them, death is certain, that you've never entered the Divine Beast Plains and know little about it. So once inside, stay close to 9 Nether." "Understood." Mu Chen nodded. Over the years, he had faced many dangers, so he was well aware of the risks within the Divine Beast Plains and wouldn't be foolish enough to underestimate them. Seeing Mu Chen's agreement, Patriarch Tian Huang said no more, instead raising his head to watch the sky, waiting for the right moment to strike. At this point, Mandala approached Mu Chen with a smile, saying, "Once you enter the Divine Beast Plains, I will return to the Great Luo Heaven Domain. If you return safely, the 9 Nether Sparrow clan will escort you back to the Northern Domain." She paused for a moment before continuing. "After you leave, I will use the Star Suppression Tower to sense the ancient Heavenly Palace, trying to gather some useful information to assist you when you return." She knew that the reason Chen came to the northern domain was for the evolution of the great sun indestructible body, which was hidden in the ancient heavenly palace. After receiving so much help from him, it was only right for her to assist Chen in achieving his goal. Thank you. As expected, upon hearing this, even Chen couldn't help but show a delighted expression. The eternal undying body was far too important to him. So no matter what, he had to find the ancient heavenly palace and obtain the evolution method for the great sun indestructible body. Taking people's money means you should clear their troubles. Mandala smiled gently, but then her expression became serious. However, I must warn you in advance, if the ancient heavenly palace truly appears, it will undoubtedly cause a great stir on the Tianluo continent. Who knows how many forces it will attract, and the ensuing competition will be beyond your imagination. Moreover, the method to cultivate the great sun indestructible body isn't something only you have your eyes on. Upon hearing this, Chen's pupils shrank. Looking at Mandala's serious expression, he suddenly recalled some information she had mentioned before. In this world, Chen wasn't the only one aiming to cultivate the great sun indestructible body. There were others, with great opportunities, who had also obtained the cultivation method for the great sun indestructible body, and these individuals were undoubtedly extraordinary talents. They would become Chen's biggest obstacle in obtaining the eternal undying body. Because no matter how many people cultivated the great sun indestructible body, in the end, only one could evolve into the eternal undying body. The competition on this path would be more brutal than Chen imagined. Survival of the fittest, the strong devouring the weak. Gaining the great sun indestructible body was a huge opportunity for Chen, but at the same time, it was a tremendous crisis. Your strength is considered top tier among the younger generation in the northern domain, but it's still far from enough, Mandala said seriously. Chen nodded. The northern domain was only a small part of the Tianluo continent, not to mention other regions. Even among the younger generation of the Nine Nether Sparrow clan, his 6th grade supreme strength wasn't outstanding. He knew his current strength probably wouldn't be enough to compete for opportunities in the ancient heavenly palace. This time, I'll have you go to the divine beast plains to seize the opportunity. No matter what, you must cultivate the dragon and phoenix body to the 2nd level, Mandala said. I understand. Chen looked at Mandala, whose expression was heavy, and slowly nodded. If he could break through to the 7th grade supreme in the divine beast plains, combined with the 2nd level of the dragon and phoenix body, he would likely be fearless even against an 8th grade supreme. And it was only at the level of 8th grade supreme that one could be considered a true powerhouse in the entire Tianluo continent. He knew that Mandala was simply reminding him not to be complacent. Although he hadn't yet encountered an opponent who had also cultivated the great sun indestructible body, he could imagine that those people would surely be extraordinarily talented. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to cultivate the great sun indestructible body to this level. Mandala, seeing his response, said no more and turned to leave. Chen watched her figure, his expression becoming much more serious. He had originally thought that as long as he found the ancient heavenly palace, he would be able to obtain the cultivation method for the great sun indestructible body. However, Mandala had sounded the alarm. If his strength wasn't enough, even if he found the method, he could only serve as a stepping stone for others. It seems that this trip to the divine beast plains is crucial for me. Chen's palms slowly clenched into a fist, and his gaze grew sharp. Though the competition he would face would be more brutal, to obtain the evolution method for the great sun indestructible body, he had no choice but to give it his all. Buzz! Just as Chen's thoughts settled, a sudden storm appeared in the sky. He quickly looked up and saw the space above rippling like water, with concentric circles of ripples expanding. Outward as the ripples spread, countless ancient scenes seemed to pass through the void, filled with the aura of the primordial wilderness. Make your move. Seeing this, Patriarch Tian Huang of the Tian Huang clan, who had been preparing for a long time, immediately shouted. A beam of light, like a 10,000 zhang rainbow, shot out from the top of his head. Within the light, a huge crimson bird shadow could be faintly seen, with fiery flames that seemed capable of burning the heavens and earth. Whoosh! Whoosh! At the moment the patriarch of the Tian Huang clan took action, Several other elders from the Nine Nether Sparrow clan also immediately made their move. Light rainbows shot up into the sky, and all of them slammed into the void space. The several Earth Supremes acted together. The space there slowly began to tear open. Inside that space, darkness prevailed, but an extremely ancient and wild energy swept out. That energy spread. It seemed as if countless beastly roars echoed from the ancient past. Go! Veins popped on the arm of the Tian Huang clan's patriarch. His gaze suddenly turned towards Mu Chun and the others, and he shouted sternly. Mo Feng grabbed Mo Ling and shot upwards, while Nine Nether took the opportunity to seize Mu Chen's arm, transforming into a light shadow and shooting upwards. They immediately and decisively plunged into the forcibly torn void space. Boom! Just as Nine Nether and the others entered, the torn space suddenly erupted with terrifying spatial turbulence. Under the rampage of the turbulence, the spiritual energy light rainbows formed by the Earth Supremes immediately shattered. Such tyrannical spatial turbulence. The patriarch of the Tian Huang clan and the others all withdrew their hands. They looked at the swiftly disappearing void space, sighing in admiration. Even with so many of them acting together, it was only because of their combined strength that they could tear open such a short gap in the void space where the divine beast plains was located. The patriarch and the others looked up. They gazed at the spot where Mu Chun and the others had disappeared, and all they could do was sigh inwardly. In such a place with cruel competition, no one knew if their Nine Nether Sparrow clan would be able to seize an opportunity. After all, in the past, their clan had not been short of instances where they returned empty-handed or even suffered heavy defeats. Now, all we can do is wait. Hopefully, this time they will return safely. After the four from the Thunder Crow clan left, Nine Nether and Mo Feng immediately turned their attention to Mu Chun. The anticipation in their eyes was unmistakable. Mu Chun smiled upon seeing this, then took out the blood spirit mud embryo. Instantly, blood lights spread out, and the intense vitality energy rippled, causing a red glow to appear on the faces of the four. This is the blood spirit mud embryo. Nine Nether and Mo Feng's eyes immediately fixed on the blood spirit mud embryo, frozen in place, unable to move. At that moment, even Mo Feng's usual indifference was overshadowed by shock. They had expected the blood spirit mud in the meteorite to be powerful, but they had never imagined that it would be so concentrated that it had formed an embryo. If the Thunder Crow clan had known about this earlier, they would probably be regretting it right now. After a moment, Nine Nether regained composure, though her voice still carried an unmistakable tone of excitement. Mo Feng beside her gently nodded, a trace of joy on his face. They hadn't even entered the divine beast plains yet they had already obtained a blood spirit mud embryo. Such luck was truly extraordinary. How should we distribute this blood spirit mud embryo? Mu Chun glanced at the three of them and asked a rather sensitive question. This blood spirit mud embryo was incredibly valuable, and if they didn't divide it well, it could cause friction. Although Mu Chun trusted Nine Nether, his relationship with Mo Feng and Mo Ling wasn't particularly deep. Mo Feng and Mo Ling exchanged a glance, then turned their gaze toward Nine Nether. It was clear they wanted her to decide. Nine Nether, after a moment's thought, smiled and said, "This thing has already formed a whole and can't be evenly split like before. I think we should all absorb and refine it together. As for who gets more, that'll depend on their luck." Nine Nether's suggestion was to refine the blood spirit mud embryo together, which was a fair proposal. Mo Feng and Mo Ling nodded in agreement without objection. Mu Chun naturally had no objections. "Let's move quickly. It'll take us at least half a day to pass through this meteorite belt. We should use this time to refine it. There are many talented individuals in the divine beast plains, and the competition is fierce. The more we improve, the better our chances of obtaining treasures." Nine Nether looked ahead at the endless. Faced with the harsh competition in the divine beast plains, they needed to convert all available resources into their own strength. The four of them, having reached a decision, wasted no time. They immediately sat down in a four-corner formation atop the meteorite. At the same time, Mo Feng clenched his hand, and a golden bell, shimmering with a strange radiance, appeared in his palm. The surface of the bell was bathed in golden light, adorned with ancient patterns. Upon closer inspection, those patterns seemed to resemble a phoenix soaring with its wings spread wide. With a flick of his finger, Emofeng sent the golden bell flying. It expanded rapidly with the wind before descending, enveloping Mu Chen and the other three within. As the bell settled over them, its golden light gradually faded until it became completely invisible. Along with it, the figures of Mu Chen and the others vanished without a trace. From a distance, the meteorite appeared utterly deserted. This is the Phoenix Chime Bell, a supreme divine artifact, Nine Nether explained when she saw Mu Chen's astonishment. It provides both defense and concealment. With its protection, we can refine the blood spirit mud embryo in peace, without worrying about the vital energy it releases attracting other powerful beings. That certainly makes things easier. Mu Chen let out a small sigh of relief, though he couldn't help but feel a bit envious. Supreme divine artifacts stood at the pinnacle of all artifacts, far surpassing ordinary high-grade ones in both value and power. So far, the most powerful treasure he had acquired was likely the Star Suppression Tower. However, it was a sacred artifact, far beyond his current ability to wield. For him, it was like a child trying to swing a giant battle axe. Unable to unleash its true power, he had reluctantly handed it over to Mandala. As for supreme divine artifacts, he had none in his possession. The only weapon he had once relied on, the great Xun'er demon pillar, was indeed a formidable ancient weapon. However, as his strength grew, he began to notice its flaws. While its demonic aura was overwhelming, it lacked sustained power. Based on his speculation, the pillar was likely missing a crucial core component. Otherwise, it wouldn't be so limited in strength. Even the Dragon Demon Palace, which previously owned it, had likely failed to realize this flaw. Mu Chen set aside his thoughts and refocused. He opened his palm, and the blood spirit mud embryo slowly rose, hovering at the center of the four of them. Let's begin. Nine Nether exchanged glances with the others before closing her eyes. She formed a seal with her hands, releasing a surge of spiritual energy that wrapped around the blood spirit mud embryo. As it absorbed the energy, wisps of crimson mist were extracted, flowing back toward Nine Nether and seeping into her slightly parted lips. Seeing this, Mu Chen and the other two wasted no time. They each formed seals with their hands, channeling their spiritual energy around the blood spirit mud embryo without interfering with one another. Just like Nine Nether, they extracted strands of the crimson mist and absorbed them into their bodies. Buzz. The moment the first strand of extremely condensed crimson mist entered Mu Chen's body, his entire being trembled uncontrollably. What appeared to be a thin wisp of mist instantly transformed into searing magma, surging through his limbs and bones. For a split second, he could even hear the sizzling sound of his flesh being scorched from within. His blood and flesh greedily devoured the burning energy, completely disregarding its scalding heat. As the torrid current seeped through his body, his flesh pulsed with astonishing vitality. A terrifying strength began to brew deep within his muscles and bones. The vital energy contained in the blood spirit mud embryo was far superior to that of the blood spirit mud he had consumed before, by an overwhelming margin. In Mu Chen's estimation, just one inhalation of this crimson mist was equivalent to swallowing an entire blood spirit mud pill. Whoosh! The meteorite carrying the four of them streaked across the vast expanse of the asteroid belt, heading straight for the radiant, sun-like core at the center. Their figures remained utterly still. Between them, the blood spirit mud embryo hovered, spinning continuously, releasing waves of crimson mist that were swiftly absorbed. This refining process continued for half an hour in the blink of an eye. Mu Chen slowly exhaled a breath tinged with a faint crimson hue. He could feel the increasing heat and vitality surging through his flesh, as though his body was on the verge of bursting with power. What surprised him the most, however, was that as his vital energy grew stronger, the true dragon and phoenix patterns on his chest and back began to tremble ever so slightly. The tremor was as if something was about to awaken. Bang! Just as this thought crossed Mu Chen's mind, his body suddenly trembled. Red light erupted from within him, and his entire upper body clothes instantly turned to ashes. The clothes disintegrated, A giant purple-golden dragon pattern appeared on Mu Chen's chest. Coiling there, it remained still, yet an immense and terrifying pressure began to radiate from it at the same time. On his back, the true phoenix pattern with its wings folded suddenly stirred, its wings fluttering. Another equally horrifying aura spread outward. These two powerful and unmatched pressures rippled around Mu Chen, causing the very space to tremble. This commotion immediately woke up the three people who had their eyes closed. Jiu Yu, Mo Feng, and Mo Ling. They looked at Mu Chen, whose eyes were shut tight, his upper body exposed, and the dragon and phoenix patterns coiled around him. Shock immediately appeared on their faces. Is this the true phoenix pressure? And the true dragon pressure? Mo Feng and Mo Ling exclaimed in disbelief. Even powerful beings like them couldn't maintain their usual cold demeanor, their faces filled with astonishment. The two siblings had phoenix clan blood, so they were more sensitive to the true phoenix pressure. At this moment, they could feel their bodies shaking slightly under the overwhelming pressure of the true phoenix. The true phoenix was the king of the phoenix clan. Even though the true phoenix pressure on Mu Chen was not originating from him directly, it was still shockingly powerful. How does he have the pressure of both the true dragon and true phoenix? Mo Ling was stunned. Normally, such a pressure could only be possessed by descendants of true dragon and true phoenix bloodlines. But Mu Chen appeared to be a pure human. Although Jiu Yu was also surprised, she was not as shocked as the other two. She already knew that Mu Chen possessed the dragon phoenix body, and the so-called true dragon and true phoenix pressures came from the dragon and phoenix scripture he cultivated. Such a mysterious technique, once mastered, could not only produce the pressure of the true dragon, but perhaps even the true power of the true dragon and true phoenix would manifest. It seems his dragon and phoenix scripture has made some progress. Jiu Yu mused, watching Mu Chen, who was still with his eyes closed. She felt a sense of joy in her heart. The divine beast plains was approaching, and the stronger Mu Chen became, the greater their rewards would be. Roar. As Jiu Yu was lost in thought, suddenly, a mighty dragon roar and a phoenix cry resonated throughout the space. Then, the three of them were startled to see the blood spirit mud embryo floating among them. It seemed to be drawn by a powerful force, and instantly, two streams of crimson mist surged out, directly rushing into the true dragon and true phoenix patterns on Mu Chen's chest and back. As the red mist flowed continuously into him, the three of them watched in shock as the tightly shut eyes of the coiled true dragon and true phoenix patterns seemed to open slightly. Boom! In that instant, as the faintest crack appeared in the tightly shut eyes of the true dragon and true phoenix, the three of them, sitting in front of Mu Chen, heard an overwhelming dragon's roar and phoenix's cry ringing in their ears. Their pupils dilated in shock because they sensed an extremely terrifying pressure awakening from Mu Chen's body. It was the power of the true dragon and true phoenix. But now, this pressure was far more vast and immense than before. Mo Feng and Mo Ling felt it most intensely because they both had phoenix clan blood, and the true phoenix was the most authoritative king among the phoenix clan. Thus, when the previous immense true phoenix pressure stirred from Mu Chen, their bodies trembled involuntarily. They even had the illusion that the Mu Chen before them was no longer human, but rather a higher being from the phoenix clan, evoking their awe. How does he possess such a powerful true phoenix pressure? Mo Feng's usual cold demeanor had long disappeared. He stared in disbelief at the meditating Mu Chen. Such true phoenix pressure was rarely seen even within the phoenix clan, and yet it was now emanating from Mu Chen. Jiu Yu took a deep breath, her beautiful eyes filled with a hint of shock. She knew that Mu Chen had cultivated the dragon and phoenix scripture, but the trace of true phoenix aura he previously possessed, though astonishing, was too faint. Aside from leaving people in awe, it had little practical effect. It was flashy but lacked substance. However, the true phoenix aura now emanating from Mu Chen had become much stronger. Even spirit beasts like them, who had phoenix clan bloodlines, would tremble with fear in the face of such pressure, their own strength suppressed. This kind of suppression was unavoidable unless one possessed absolute power. As it originated from the bloodline and the inherent nobility of the true phoenix, Buzz as Jiu and the others were still in shock. The true dragon and phoenix patterns etched on Mu Chen's body suddenly erupted with brilliant golden light, accompanied by a terrifying suction force. This force was not directed at Jiu and the others, but instead locked onto the blood spirit mud embryo that spun rapidly between the four of them. It shook violently, and two torrents of blood-red energy shot out from it. The two blood torrents, each around 10 feet long, contained an enormous amount of vital energy. They howled as they were immediately swallowed clean by the true dragon and phoenix patterns. The scene left Jiu and the others stunned. Previously, they had spent a long time trying to extract a bit of vital energy from the blood spirit mud embryo. But now, Mu Chen's true dragon and phoenix patterns were devouring it like a whale. The speed at which it was absorbed was astonishing, and it made them envious. "Let's absorb it too," Mo Ling quickly said when she saw that the true dragon and phoenix patterns had just finished devouring one wave of vital energy and seemed ready to pull more in. The blood spirit mud embryo contained vast amounts of vital energy, but such a massive force might not withstand the whale-like absorption of the true dragon and phoenix patterns. If they didn't hurry, they might not even get a drop left. Jiu and Mo Feng nodded quickly, not daring to speak further. They focused all their attention on refining and absorbing the vital energy from the blood spirit mud embryo. As they resumed their refining, the true dragon and phoenix patterns on Mu Chen's body, as expected, began to unleash another terrifying suction force. Instantly, two red streaks of light shot out from the blood spirit mud embryo. Jiu and the others looked at those two streaks of crimson light, each about 10 feet long, then at their own paltry absorption efforts, and couldn't help but twitch their mouths. But they knew this was probably just the beginning. For nearly half an hour, the true dragon and phoenix patterns on Mu Chen's body did not stop this fierce devouring process. The torrents of red energy filled with immense vital force continuously poured in. Under this massive influx, the originally purple-gold true dragon and phoenix patterns gradually began to take on a tinge of red. The true dragon pattern seemed to grow slightly, coiling around with strength and power, its scales appearing to be made of unbreakable purple gold. The true phoenix pattern also grew deeper, its previously closed wings now partially spreading. However, the eyes of the two patterns did not open again. They remained with only a small gap. Even so, the pressure of the true dragon and phoenix aura still made Jiu and the others' hearts trembled at this moment. If Mu Chen were to impersonate a member of the dragon or phoenix clans, aside from not being able to reveal his divine beast form, he could probably deceive a number of people. Cracked at this moment. The blood spirit mud embryo spinning in the center of the four of them finally showed signs of exhaustion after such massive absorption that a fine crack began to appear on the surface of the embryo. Jiu and the others looked at the crack, shaking their heads helplessly. Normally, this blood spirit mud embryo would provide enough vital energy for them to absorb for several days. But now, because of Mu Chen's presence, the embryo was nearly depleted in less than half a day. However, most of the vital energy contained within the blood spirit mud embryo, likely over 90%, had been absorbed solely by Mu Chen. It was clear that Mu Chen had gained a tremendous advantage this time. Jiu gave an apologetic look to Mo Feng and his sister. After all, it was her suggestion to distribute the energy this way, but given the situation, Mo Feng and his sister had clearly suffered a great loss. However, facing her apology, Mo Feng shook his head, signaling that he didn't mind. Although the blood spirit mud embryo was valuable, it couldn't be obtained again once it was lost in the divine beast plains. Moreover, the earlier allocation had been approved by all four of them, and perhaps even Mu Chen himself didn't expect that he would gain such a big advantage. Crack, crack. The cracks on the blood spirit mud embryo continued to spread. Eventually, even Jiu and the others had to stop their refinement, allowing Mu Chen to extract the last bit of vital energy from the blood spirit mud embryo. With the final red rainbow shooting out, the previously dazzling blood spirit mud embryo instantly dimmed, the light faded, and it finally turned into sand, softly falling and returning to its original state. This blood spirit mud embryo had clearly exhausted all the vital energy contained within it. As the blood spirit mud embryo dissolved, Mu Chen's body, seemed to sense something, and the dragon and phoenix patterns on his body gradually contracted, as if they had turned into tattoos, now imprinted. On his chest and back, Chen's eyes suddenly opened. His black pupils remained as deep as before, but at the moment they opened, there seemed to be the reflections of a dragon and phoenix in his pupils, and an overwhelming pressure surged outward. Under this pressure, Jiu and the other two hurriedly activated their spiritual energy. The pressure caused their internal energy to move sluggishly. Fortunately, the pressure came quickly and dissipated just as fast, vanishing completely within a few breaths. Chen's eyes returned to normal at that point. He looked down at the true dragon pattern on his chest, his gaze flickering slightly. Although the dragon and phoenix pattern seemed unchanged, Chen knew that his dragon and phoenix scripture had begun to improve once again. Although he was still far from breaking through to the second level of the realm, Chen sensed the opportunity for a breakthrough for the first time, and a glimmer of hope. Chen slowly clenched his fist. He could feel that his physical body had become much stronger after the previous cultivation, especially the dragon and phoenix patterns, which seemed to possess some unique abilities. Overall, this cultivation had significantly improved his combat power. Cough. While Chen was immersed in his growth, a light cough came from ahead. He looked up to see Jiu and the others staring at him intently. Upon meeting their gazes, Chen's face immediately turned awkward, though he had been focused on his cultivation. He was well aware of what had happened. He glanced at the ashes on the ground, the remains of the blood spirit mud embryo, and realized that he had absorbed nearly all of its vital energy. Sorry, I didn't know this thing was so domineering. Chen quickly apologized. After all, the blood spirit mud embryo belonged to all four of them, and his forceful absorption wasn't fair to the others. Though it didn't matter much with Jiu, Mo Feng and Mo Ling didn't share the same close bond with him. If we find other treasures in the divine beast plains, I'll compensate you. Mo Feng and Mo Ling looked at Chen, who wore an apologetic expression. Mo Feng didn't speak, only staring at the dragon and phoenix pattern on Chen's body. Mo Ling pouted slightly and said, "Fine, we'll let you off this time. We won't hold it against you for being a glutton." Chen gave a dry laugh, took off his clothes to cover his upper body, and blocked Mo Feng's gaze from continuing to fixate on the dragon and phoenix pattern. Mo Feng withdrew his gaze, casting a deep look at Chen. His attitude toward Chen had shifted. Initially, he had been indifferent to Chen joining, because in his view, though Chen had defeated Jiangya and the others, it didn't mean much. The arrogance of those two was nothing before him. However, after the previous situation, he had faintly realized that Chen might be hiding a lot of things. If he continued to underestimate him, it would only be his own foolishness. Perhaps with Chen's addition, their journey to the divine beast plains would yield unexpected results. We're almost at the divine beast plains. Just as Mo Feng was lost in thought, Jiu's voice suddenly rang out. The remaining three individuals were all shaken at this moment. They abruptly looked up, and then they saw that the endless meteor belt had finally come to an end. In the depths of that end, there was a vast ancient continent, which seemed to have no end, quietly floating in the void. On that continent, it was as though the primordial wilderness energy was spreading. Even though Chen and the others were still far away, they were still struck by a breathless awe. Faintly, it seemed as though the roars of countless ancient and powerful beasts were reverberating, echoing from the distant past. The divine beast plains had finally arrived. The dazzling light burst before Chen's eyes. He could clearly see an extremely vast continent within that light. The continent was endless, and even though Chen was high in the sky, he still could not see its end. The entire land was enveloped by a vast aura, like that of the primordial wilderness. Is this the divine beast plains? Chen muttered to himself that in ancient times, this area was considered a gathering place for powerful beings even within the entire divine beast continent. It gathered nearly a quarter of the peak existences from the spirit beast realm, which is why it attracted the attention of the extraterritorial clans. They were the first to act, descending with a thunderous force, bringing destruction that instantly severely harmed the spirit beast realm. While Chen was reflecting, His gaze, still fixed on the divine beast plains, suddenly shrank, and a look of shock appeared on his face. This was because, due to the extremely vast view from the outer space of the divine beast plains, Chen suddenly saw that a vast pit, about several million zhang wide, had appeared on the enormous divine beast plains. From a high vantage point, it was clear that this was an enormous and indescribable palm print. It seemed as though the palm print had fallen from the sky, violently tearing apart the divine beast plains. Countless deep ravines stretched out, dividing the land and altering the terrain. The destructive power of this strike was truly earth-shattering, unimaginable. Under this palm strike, how many powerful existences within the divine beast plains were instantly reduced to dust? Under this blow, even those at the upper earth supreme level, like Mandala and the others, would probably not have escaped unscathed. This was the destructive attack launched by the extraterritorial clans back then. Beside Chen, Jiu said with a somewhat grim expression. Although the spirit beast realm was also a place where the strong preyed upon the weak, filled with brutal competition, this was still within the rules of the spirit beast realm. However, the sudden appearance of the extraterritorial clans had directly shattered these rules. Like invaders, they sought to destroy anything that was different from them. That it was precisely because of this that the Great Thousand Worlds viewed the extraterritorial clans as a great enemy. During the war to protect the realm, countless once mighty powers in the Great Thousand Worlds were wiped out, and many peak existences felled at that time. All grudges were set aside, and everything became focused on protecting the Great Thousand Worlds. Chen's expression grew serious. Although that ancient war had passed countless years ago, everyone knew that the terrifying extraterritorial clans had not truly been driven back, despite the Great Thousand Worlds having paid an enormous price in that war. They hadn't really won, because the Great Thousand Worlds still had vast regions occupied by the extraterritorial clans. They were still eyeing the border of the dimension from beyond, and once they regained their strength, Chen had no doubt that these evil and aggressive extraterritorial clans would once again launch a world-shattering invasion, and at that time, it would be the Great Thousand Worlds extinction catastrophe. Thinking of this, Chen's heart grew heavy, but he shook his head. Suppressing those thoughts, he then turned his gaze to the rapidly approaching divine beast plains. His eyes suddenly narrowed again. Within the enormous palm print, he seemed to see 4 towering pillars, each tens of thousands of zhang high. They appeared like 4 massive peaks rising between heaven and earth, but for some reason, they gave Chen a chilling sense of unease. "Those aren't mountains," Jiu said, her eyes filled with reverence as she looked at the 4 towering peaks. "They are the remnants of a peak powerhouse from the divine beast plains, who sensed the destructive attack of the extraterritorial clans and tried to stop it, giving some of the land's creatures a chance to escape. This powerhouse was also a super divine beast. Its true body was the devouring heaven turtle, with strength at the heavenly supreme level. Even the same level heavenly supremes would find it hard to break through its defenses. However, despite that, it was unable to stop the destructive attack from the extraterritorial clans, who had united with numerous kings. Its body was destroyed in that attack, leaving only its limbs standing, thus protecting some of the creatures from perishing." Chen's expression grew serious upon hearing those words, and he couldn't help but feel a surge of respect for this powerful figure. If he had chosen to flee at that moment, with such a being's overwhelming strength, perhaps there might have been a chance to escape. However, he had chosen to stay behind for the creatures of the divine beast plains. Even though he ultimately couldn't protect the divine beast plains, such a grand sacrifice was still worthy of admiration. Boom, boom. As Chen pondered these thoughts, the meteor beneath their feet carried them into the atmosphere of the divine beast plains. With the high-speed friction, the meteor quickly became blazing hot, and flames began to rise from Chen, and the others immediately activated their spiritual energy to protect their bodies. The earth below began to expand rapidly in their vision, signaling that they were about to reach the divine beast plains. The fireball streaked across the sky, and the ancient, shattered land grew clearer. The primordial energy that hit them felt as though they had stepped back into the ancient era. "Let's go." Looking at the increasingly approaching ground, Jiu suddenly shouted. Then, his figure turned into a flash of light and shot out, followed closely by Chen and the others. The four figures appeared atop a hill thousands of meters away, and as they landed, the ground shook violently. Cracks as wide as chasms spread across the earth, and the impact caused massive tremors. Looking in that direction, Chen and the others saw flames rising from the earth. The meteor had directly struck the ground, creating a deep, bottomless pit. Chen raised his head and looked at the ancient, unfamiliar land before him. The air here was thick with the essence of the primordial wilderness. Despite the land's dilapidation, traces of the wild, ancient era could still be felt. Gigantic trees, each several thousand meters tall, stood like towering peaks across the land. Their branches spread wide, covering an area of 1,000 meters, presenting a magnificent sight. Massive rocks, like colossal giants, were scattered across the land. From a distance, they resembled sleeping statues. An invisible pressure seemed to emanate from them, creating a special sense of oppression. "Welcome to the Divine Beast Plains," Jiuyu said with a faint smile as Chen gazed at the land. Chen smiled back, then suddenly looked up at the distant sky. He saw countless fireballs continuously falling from the boundless sky. They eventually crashed onto various regions of the shattered Divine Beast Plains. "It looks like the other spirit beast clans have arrived," Mo Feng said faintly, observing the scene. That as soon as these words were spoken, the expressions of the four grew serious, and their gazes hardened. They all knew that the competition for the Divine Beast Plains would soon officially begin. "What should we do next?" Chen asked Jiuyu. He was unfamiliar with the Divine Beast Plains and knew little about it, so he had to rely on Jiuyu and the others' advice. Jiuyu pondered for a moment, then exchanged a look with Mo Feng before thoughtfully saying, "I suggest we set our first target on the Ancient Body Refining Pagoda." "The Ancient Body Refining Pagoda?" Chen was momentarily stunned. In ancient times, there were 30 body refining pagodas in the Divine Beast Plains. This pagoda has the divine effect of refining the body. If we manage to break through, not only will our physical bodies improve, but depending on our performance, we will receive various rewards. Some of these rewards, according to legend, even include divine techniques and quasi-sacred artifacts. Mo Ling said with a mischievous smile. "Divine techniques, quasi-sacred artifacts." Chen's face instantly changed. He stared at Mo Ling in disbelief, not expecting that the so-called Ancient Body Refining Pagoda could offer such rewards. In the Great Thousand Worlds, divine techniques stronger than the Great Perfection level are known as divine abilities. These divine abilities are so powerful that even Earth's supreme experts would be tempted by them, as each divine ability possesses the power to destroy the heavens and the earth. It is a form of power far beyond divine techniques, hence the name, divine abilities. This concept could be glimpsed from the so-called supreme divine abilities. As for the quasi-sacred artifacts, there was no need for further explanation. One could already deduce their value from the Star Suppression Tower. Of course, the Star Suppression Tower was a true sacred artifact, which surpassed quasi-sacred artifacts in rank. However, it was precisely because of this that it became even more attractive to Chen. The truly sacred artifacts were too powerful for him to control, but if it were a semi-sacred artifact, it might just provide him with real assistance. "Really?" Chen looked at Jiuyu with some disbelief and asked again. Seeing this, Jiuyu nodded and said, "It is indeed true. However, to obtain divine techniques and semi-sacred artifacts as rewards, one must achieve outstanding results during the Tower Challenge. From past experience, only the geniuses from extremely powerful divine beast clans could possibly accomplish this." Chen licked his lips, not too surprised by this. If divine techniques and semi-sacred artifacts were so easily obtainable, they wouldn't be so rare and valuable. Even in ancient times, only the top-tier clans had the qualifications and capabilities to construct the ancient body refinement towers. Of the original 30 body refinement towers, only 5 remain today, and all are damaged. Therefore, every time the ancient body refinement tower is activated, the number of spots is limited. As a result, the competition for those spots is extremely intense. Jiuyu added. Chen nodded. After all, With so few spots and such incredible power within the ancient body refinement towers, no one would want to give up such an opportunity easily. Since everyone is already aware of the mystery of the ancient body refinement tower, let's vote on whether we should go and compete for a spot, Jiuyu said, looking at Chen and the others. They were a team now, so their opinions had to be unified to prevent any discord from destabilizing the group. Chen thought for a moment and then raised his hand. His cultivation in the second level of the Dragon and Phoenix scripture had already reached a critical point. If he could use the power of the body refinement tower, he might be able to truly break through to the second level. At that point, his combat strength would undergo a dramatic transformation. So, he didn't want to miss this opportunity. Phone casually nodded and said, "Since we're here in the Divine Beast Plains, I never planned to take it easy. I also want to see what the other clan's geniuses are capable of." After speaking, he raised his hand. Ling, who was standing beside them, smiled and said, "I'll follow my big brother." Seeing this, Jiuyu smiled and then gently nodded. Her beautiful eyes gazed toward the northwest, and she said with a smile, "In that case, let's go and experience the famous ancient body refinement tower."